Hello and welcome to this session on competencies. I'm going to try and start with a bit of levity because competencies is not always the thing that springs to mind when you're in your induction and you thought, wow, I really want to come to work today to learn about competencies. So I'm going to say to you, this is now an improvement on the last video where there was a little block in the way. Now, some people may think, well, I could make an artificial one like that and block the screen. If you notice the last one I did, when we were looking at your staff handbook, it had a little black block in the way. And now I've worked out how to get this dismembered head to actually appear properly. So I think, and I found it quite funny when I was doing the recording for this, because it's got this funny little feature where you can actually see, you can step your hand out. Look at that. I can point to things if I can get to the camera right, and then bring my hand back in and bring my head out and so on. Oh, it's all a bit strange. Um, so that childishness aside, I thought, well, let's try and tackle this together. And if you want a break, it's on a video, so you go, oh, pause, stop him. But I'm hoping we'll get through this fairly quickly. Competencies, in all seriousness, is the bread and butter of what we do. And I get fed up. When I came to Spring Care for You, I was fed up of a lot of care companies cutting corners on HR issues around competencies. Um, so we want competent staff, we want trained staff, but there's no accountability for that, either from the employer to make sure that they are setting out what they expect of the staff, or for the staff members themselves at all levels, including mine, to actually have to follow anything and have to meet any level of competency. But it's very easy at the end of probation if your face doesn't fit, and that's the danger for someone to say to you, well, it hasn't worked out. I'm really sorry, it hasn't worked out, blah, blah, blah. We're going to have to let you go. And you know darn well that there's nothing you can do. The way our employment law is set up under 2 years at the moment, it makes it very difficult to appeal that, especially if there's no hard and fast evidence as to why. So it ends up as a battle of wills against your manager or against your colleagues, um, and very acrimonious at times. I've had it as a manager before, where staff have got very upset because they felt physically bullied, picked on, and so on and so forth. When actually, if we defined what we were looking for to start with, we'd have something very clearly to measure their performance or even attitude against. Now, that's a strange thing to say in today's workplace. We don't tend to look enough at attitude. And I have checked this out legally, by the way, before sending it on a video. But yes, attitude is a competency that you can look at, because why, if somebody comes to work and they are a joy and a pleasure to work with, the children love them, the staff love them, they just brighten the place up, whereas somebody else comes and you think a rain cloud had appeared. So, it is a massive difference, really. Um, and I think we ought to be really mindful of how we present ourselves at work. You think that the children that we are supporting have come from very, very difficult traumatic backgrounds. We did that in the training with Andrea. You looked at it yourselves. You've all had experience of it in different levels. They deserve better than a staff member to come in looking like, as the phrase goes, a wet weekend or with a big thundercloud. Do you know? I don't know if you noticed. I just clicked on that little blue box at the top of the screen. I wanted to see. There's actually a rather childish emoji that brings out rain clouds, but I can't find it, so I'm not going to. Again, I'm just sorry. I'm quite amused by this little head, but that's just me. Moving back onto this though, the competency record then covers 14 competencies. Okay, so 14 competencies. It's quite a big piece of work, and at the moment we've just done the full piece of work the for yourselves who are residential support workers. So team leaders, deputies, registered managers, that's a joy that I've got to do moving forward. But today we're going to look at the 14 competencies are exactly the same competencies regardless of what level you are in the company for equality, but they have more information required and they require more of them. So without going on too far, you can see that they all have these wonderful numbers. and you think, what's this about? Why is there a 12 in that one? And these ones are blank at the moment, and why have they got orange boxes? So very quickly to explain when you look at the slides or look back at this video. 12 is essentially the score you'd get when it's crunch time. It's basically, can we take this person or can't we take this person? Their score is so low, it's almost they're just not demonstrating enough to be able to get the job. And then it goes up to 18, and Alex, you'll see how we get to 18 in a minute on the scorings. And then if you get to 18, you'll see that there's 18 and 18. So if you were at spot on 18, um, that could have been, I suppose, if I was being absolutely fair, 19, so 18 and a half. But let's just say you're spot on there, and it's not clear to your manager whether you're right at the top of RSW or you are actually team leader level. So you might have been able to show the competencies in so many areas, you just haven't quite got the experience. So you might be there in that box where my mouse is, and then sort of 19 and 20 or 21 would be there as well. So see how I'm thinking it moves up. There is also a level from 20 to 24. It could be 21 to 24, but where again there are bandings. And why we've done it this way, we've put levels for the organisation, and then the bandings are working towards the level or a newly qualified level. So you're in that level thoroughly, or you're qualified, you've got all your training and so on and experience, and so you're well and truly in the top banding. One last thing to say about bandings before I move on. A banding, if you get to the top of your band, does not automatically mean that you move on to the next job. So, for example, if you were a team leader, you are on 24, it does not mean that you're ready to be a deputy manager. It means that you have enough points, if you like, to be able to apply for a deputy manager's post when one comes up. And that's important because I don't want to set the precedent, people thinking, well, I got to the top of the banding, so I'm now ready. I am owed the next job. No, we only do jobs by interview. So another thing to say to you on that is, if you were at the top banding, you will still may have to face external candidates because, again, fair recruitment, honest recruitment, and legal recruitment says that we have to put an advert out externally as well as internally and interview all the candidates. What we're saying is, though, at 24, you would be more than competent to move up to the next banding. And so you would stand an extremely good chance of being able to be awarded the next job. We've always said in our own minds with competencies that we want to only ever essentially recruit at this, or this level. We don't really want to recruit at that level, or that level, because that's a lot harder when we can grow organically as a company. And if we treat our staff right and we treat them well, that shouldn't be necessary. So there's the preamble about the what you're seeing in the levels and the bandings. And when we do this in a staff meeting, you'll see how it affects pay bandings. So how do we get to these scores? That's the point. I'm just going to pick now. So I'm going to go for the manager's competencies, and you'll see that manager's competencies are 14, as I mentioned, and the total score is 112. So you've got 8 points to demonstrate the competency. And then the manager fills one part in, and the staff member fills one part in. So I might say that under information and IT, as an example, which is all about, can you operate a computer? Can you understand the basic systems that our company has? Do you know how to navigate your way around ClearCare? Not a genius, but are you okay with it? Then you'll get a score from me or from Katie or from Colin, depending on which grade is being supported. And then you will also have put your score in. So you may think that you are a 6 and I think you're a 4, let's say. So we'll have a conversation around it. And what I'll say to you, which is what I'm going to show you in a minute, is, okay, show me the evidence that you have met this competency. So we'll go to the competency in question, we'll look at it in detail, and we'll literally be able to tick off yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, or yes, 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 yes. If you can give me your evidence, you've won the argument. But you need evidence. And what that gets round is this: if you face fits mentality, if you get on with a particular manager, shouldn't matter in the slightest. If you are competent and you present the right attitudes to your job, and you'll see here that comes into well, it comes under communication here, and it comes under self-awareness are the two that I would say, where your attitude to the job and to other people is being measured, amongst other things. So you put a score, you a manager score, your score, and then you have a discussion here, which is recorded around either yes we agree, no we don't agree, we agree on some things but not on others. Normally, Katie will have the final say, and I say normally because if somebody was really unhappy, they have the right then to bring it to myself as the RI, and I would have the final say, but only and only after you talked it through with Katie. And you again, I would be saying to you both, to you and Katie, this conversation has got to be properly recorded so that there's no bias as to who said what and when. Okay. So you can see there's 112 for a deputy, 91 for a deputy manager. Team leader would score 78. RSW would score 65. They are the top scores. So all the questions you're asked in your competency assessment, there are a maximum of 5 points that you can achieve per area. Doesn't sound a lot, but you'll see what I mean in a moment. So when you've got your score and you've got your banding, that's the banding that you work on until the next assessment, competency assessment. And competency assessments will normally take place with your appraisal. So it's really important that we start this off from induction so you get the best opportunity from today to be able to build evidence. So let's have a little look. I'm not going to labour this because you can look at it online, and also you'll need to wake yourselves up afterwards for lunch or for a cup of tea. Where if I go through everything now, it's really the sort of piece of work that you would do with your manager. And if you are so motivated as a person to want to really improve and develop and move on in a company, you will take this home. I know you'd be the sort of person who'd go home and you'd read this and you'd really grab it. If you're the sort of person who says, well, okay, that's good, but I'm not too bothered. I'm just happy to muddle along and do my job and come in, be, a good staff member, but I'm not too bothered about being the star of the show or anything, or the shining light, as the phrase goes. You might read it, and fair enough. What I'm saying though is your manager's expectation of you will be that you will have read it. When you come to your appraisal and to the competency assessment, it really will be. I will expect when I've seen Katie's and when I review these, because when I'm doing my audits more, RI audits, I'll sample these and see how the conversations went. I won't sit in on them unless there was an appeal, but normally I will want to see the quality that's been discussed so that my expectation of the manager will be that these things have been teased out, and that if you haven't come prepared, that they've actually said to you, we're going to reschedule this because you're not ready. So there is a little bit in which I suppose I am saying it there, this is in your interest to look at it. So now if you can't see that, and I'm looking at the side of my screen, sorry, I'm going to try and move this up for you. There we are. So this is just one, and I'm not going to do this for all of them, just for this one, because you can read the rest. So this tells you what all of the competencies are for each grade. See, there's level 2, 3, 4, and the next one I show you, the next spreadsheet, will have as just the RSW one. That's why we're not going to do too much more on this particular spreadsheet now. This was just to show you how it's scored. But can you see there it goes up to registered manager? The reason for that is normally at RI level, there would be a slightly different set of competencies that you're looking at. There will be additional competencies that you're looking at. And what you've got to bear in mind is this person, oops, sorry, that person there at the top of their banding, the level 4 band 3, right at the top, has to know everything else for all those other levels. So it's all of this plus that, all of this plus that, all of this plus that. It's not just quite as simple as I can read my competency list and I know my competency list, so therefore it's fine. You have to understand everybody's competency below you as well. And that's why we do succession training. Now, last thing to say before we stop and maybe have a cup of tea and pause my dismembered head or not. The negative indicator. I couldn't think of a better way of phrasing it than because they are genuinely areas that we want to improve upon. So you could call them areas for improvement if you want to. But when you're scoring your competencies, you need to be able to tick off all the bullet points for your competency, and you also, to get the top banding as the top score, you need to have none in the negative. Okay, say that again. So if you started here and you've gone through it, all the indicators, tick, 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 but then there's one or two in here that are also true, then you won't have got the top scoring. So really, it gives your manager and you a chance to look at all the positives and all of the and anything that needs development. Because if your manager just goes, "Yeah, you're perfect," that's a lie, as it would be for me, as it would be for Katie, as it would be for any grade. And I'm sure you'll agree, none of us are perfect. None of us don't need to learn. None of us don't need to develop. Do I get this competency treatment? Yes, because I meet with Leslie, who's our consultant, and we do supervisions. And so I have to also demonstrate my competencies to to the directors. So yes, I do this exercise in a slightly different format in times. But I need to be able to say to all of you, and you need to be able to test me on it, does David understand all of this framework? Because if I don't, I'm letting you down as your RI in terms of not having the technical knowledge and governance and general skill and expertise to be able to run the company. So I hope you'll find that I can fill these in. Okay, let's close that one and look at this. This is what we're going to look at now. If you want to have a pause for a cup of tea, thus, then do it now and we'll start again with this session as a separate session. It's all going to be one video, so otherwise it's going to run. So I'm going to pause for a second. And I'm going to now say, right, let's assume we're on either the continuation or a second session. Now, what we saw in the last of those spreadsheets, presuming you had a quick break, was that each competency framework, each grade had its own set of frameworks. And I showed you how you'd need to know all of the sections. So from the RSW section right the way up to registered manager or RI has to know all the other bullet points on all the others, and also get none of the negatives as well themselves. So this is much easier to read for us, which is why I've gone onto this spreadsheet. It's all in your induction, and on that drive I've made the induction drive. So let's have a look at what information and communication at IT. As I said, I'm not going to go through everyone in this depth. I just want to show you what we're talking about. So it's saying that to have achieved this level, this competency fully, you are skilled in the use of information technology. That's where I am. You can adapt to new technology. You can keep abreast of changes, learn new programs quickly to get to the top of the banding, and you can use computers to improve the productivity. So you can really use ClearCare well. You can get the max out of it, run reports. You're really the one that people turn to, and you've got the knowledge. You're able to demonstrate an ability to use information technology to receive, store, and share information as required to fulfill the function of the role, including the use of internal systems. Okay? Now that's important, that last phrase. We're not asking you to be able to do something that's outside the normal function of your role. All of the rest of it, of that definition, assumes that that's all part of the normal function. But I get it. I'm just going to say to you a quick pause on this section. I do get it. When I went, for example, I developed websites, and I developed our company website in Wix, it's called, and you may have used it yourselves. I find it a very easy platform to use, very quick, very easy, very intuitive. And then our website developer went to WordPress. And when I looked at WordPress, it was a darn sight harder to just adapt to. So for a long time, I've left changes, and I'm aware. Again, all transparency. That's the website, and at the end of the day, it's not going to. It's complete as it is. It's not going to make things difficult for anybody. The fact that it's not had any recent updates, we've been doing a lot of other things. But very soon, I'm going to have to get my head round it, like everybody else, and I'm going to have to. Really get to grips with WordPress because it's necessary for my job. And if it helps you on IT, I tend to think try your best. Just get into the headspace where actually you realize that what you're doing by putting that extra learning into IT is helping the children, if that's the way you think. So I think all of us can get to a headspace where we're not frightened of the technology. You won't break ClearCare. You may You may confound me, and I'll have to go back to ClearCare and work out what you've done. But it's not, I have to say, in the experience of using it, it's not like Microsoft or even Google Docs where you can literally change things and alter settings. And it's not like that. ClearCare is very well set up, but there are ways. There are ways. And if you do, fair enough. All I'm asking you to do is please don't hide what you did. Tell somebody as soon as it all goes pear-shaped, not 6 hours later. That's all. So let me see if I can. Yeah, let's go to the full screen and see what happens. There we go. Ah, just goes to show. See, really, there we are. Dismiss. That's what I should have done. So on the full screen, we can see a little bit more, and you can read it a little easier. So then it talks about RSW level 1. That in the RSW, the level 1, and I'm going to say you could say levels. I could say levels 1 to 4. Really, I'm sorry about that. I need to change the text slightly. But what it's saying is that at RSW level, the person can use information and communications technology. They may require some assistance to perform structured tasks, which may have more than one step. It's not being patronising, it's being realistic, but are conducted in a familiar environment with team members nearby to encourage and guidance. Now, the people who excel at that can immediately look at that phrase and say, I'm well beyond, I'm the one who does the encouraging and the guidance. So, on this particular one, I've smashed it. They may make a few errors and may be discouraged when things go wrong. So that will give you an idea. And this is where the honest discussion, they're phrased in a way that if I'm your manager and I think, yeah, it did take you 20 goes to get that, submitted and not rejected on ClearCare. Are you struggling with it? Is there something more that we can do to develop and help you with this? And that's, as a good manager, what I'm trying to do. Not criticize you, but find out what's missing in your knowledge set. That's I can help you to get a better understanding of what we're doing, or a better use of the technology. And then we're looking at key indicators. Sorry, and here is where we start to have the discussion. So I would be saying to you, let's just mock this out a minute. I would be saying to you that can you prove that you accurately and consistently apply company policies and guidelines to the use of electronic records management and physical record management. So I might say to you, do you know what they are? And you'd say, yeah, where do you find them? Well, I find them on the drive or I find them on ClearCare. And the name of the policies that we've got for electronic recording is, and the name of the physical records management policy is, or heck, I've forgotten what the actual name is, but I know you look in this part of the drive and you might go into forms and procedures and you look at it there. Okay, so we might either say to that answer, he's achieved it or he's not achieved it. and a mark can go in there. Then you've demonstrated at least a basic understanding of a responsible use of technology. So simple rules of etiquette in emails, things like you don't launch in there and go hi to a social worker, or how's it going? Just say, to exaggerate it, you know, you know that you have to sign yourself off, that you need an email signature, that you would say dear so and so and so and so. If we've had complaints that you've been really like very, very um, casual, shall we say, in the way you approach emails, or you don't ever address the person, you just straight in, bang, and people say you're being quite rude, or you're the sort of person who types everything in capital letters so it looks like you're shouting at them. Then again, achieved, not achieved. If you say, that's all nonsense, Mr. Manager, I could then go, okay, let's have a little look at some of the areas where I think you haven't achieved that. Or, brilliant, you do such a great job. Here's the evidence, achieved it, job done. Able to input and save information into electronic and paper filing systems so they can be readily retrieved. Now, I'm absolutely staunch, and you won't move me on this, says he, I'm afraid, about we're not going to be a paperless system, and boycotting the electric system and saying, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, is not going to get it's not going to make me, as the RI or Katie, change our minds and have a fully paper system. We have paper versions of a certain number of things, and that's only from an Ofsted point of view as a backup. But we have Google Drive, which can be used offline, and we have ClearCare. That's enough. We don't need to have everything all on paper as well. I used to have a system with files 1 to 20, which was an absolute nightmare. And I'm going to give you one quick example. Missing from care. So you put everything goes into your instant pack. We mentioned this during the training, if you remember. But now, is your room search that you did for during the missing from care go in the room search file, or does it go in the missing from care file? Does your cause for concern around the missing from care go in the cause for concern file, or does it go into the missing from care file, etc., etc.? The incident form, is that going to the incidents, and so on. So you can end up where people like me will then say to Katie, well, can you give me your stats at the end of the month? How many incidents have you had? And she goes looking in the paper file and says, we've had 3. And I'm doing an audit, or Reg 44 comes in there looking. They said, I found 15, but they looked in different places. Your electronic system, ClearCare, will pull all of those together. So you could really clearly see that the key one in the pack, if you like, is the incident form with everything branching off it. It's really clear to see on an electronic system. But on a paper system, it can be a nightmare, because where are you filing the return? Are you filing, as I said, under are missing from care? Is it a missing incident? Is it missing as in a missing file? Is it part of a cause for concern missing? Have we done key working around the missing? So does it go into the key working file? Is part of the evidence around the missing in the key working file? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So we use electronic systems. As I said, understand that at least the basic use of technology is a tool for staff communication. So again, when you pick up the phone, I've had this happen. It's not a case of going yes or what or yeah, you know. I'm expecting people of we're not kids, we're professionals, to say hi, spring care for you, whoever speaking, how can I help, or something of that nature. It doesn't need to be scripted, but hey, what you etc. does really need to be really looked at and re-scripted into something more meaningful. Also, when you ring a house and the phone goes down and you ring it back again, nobody answers, nobody answers, nobody answers. Nobody ever rings you back either and says, really sorry, we had an incident or whatever was going on. How can I help? That's not good enough, because I could be Ofsted, I could be a social worker. And also, I, as the RI or the manager or whoever, or another staff member or a child, am just as valuable. We're all just as valuable and deserve the same professional respect. Again, on this point, demonstrates the ability to use Office software to create, format, and edit documents. So again, it's just your ability on that one. Some people will be better at that, some people won't. And IT security, this is one where, again, it's not really up to for negotiation. You need to be aware of keeping your desk clear, making sure that your screen can switch off when you're not using it. You don't leave it with information on it. That you know how to turn your computer on and off in the morning, how to log in and log out. Don't leave ClearCare logged in with your name when you've left shift, all those sorts of things. And uses communication technologies for other purposes. So, for example, you learn. You actually can use things like Facebook, maybe, or YouTube, or Google. Sorry, I was going to say I got just for doing research is what I was trying to say. That there are other ways that you're looking for information in your daily work. And the negative factors, finally. So we come to our review, and you are unaware, or I don't know what lit awareness is, but of the importance of IT security. But what it should read is unaware or have no awareness of IT security. And I suppose I should get a mark knocked off for spelling at this point. Uses inappropriate language and tone of communication. Children kicked off. And we are going to do a session on recording standards within our company. I'm not accepting certain words, phrases that put our children in a really negative light when there's no need to. I don't like the word aggressive, just as a hint. There are other ways of saying it. And you remember when Andrea talked about children being very, very cross, they might be dysregulated. They might be cross. They might have sworn, but then, as I've already said, you put what they said and let the reader judge. A child might have become what you would describe as aggressive, but it's easier to say they put my hand on my throat and I used whatever appropriate technique, um, you know, um, physical intervention technique to get myself into a safe place. That's factual. But child kicked off, grabbed me by the throat, was aggressive. It's all negatively loaded language, which, let's face it, if that child's behaviour was all around trauma, you've just given them a whopping big label. So another thing here, so this again is about your approach. You get people in the office who hide behind their email and don't share information electronically. So you're not a sharer of stuff. You go in the office, you're not the person to be constantly helping other people. You do your notes, your thing, close it all down. And it's very easy then to keep a very closed mentality about what you're up to and not tell everybody properly. And you fail to or attempt to complete online learning opportunities. So I might say, or say Katie says, there's a new report from Ofsted we'd like everyone to look at, or a new policies come out, or look at your read and sign file, and you are consistently the person who never reads it. Again, negative indicator. So I think I've made the point from this pretty clearly. I'm just going to zoom out again so you can see. And there we go. And then you can see that all of our areas of working, attention to detail, flexibility and adaptability, confidentiality, health and safety, team working, compliance to regulation, understanding of business need. And that doesn't mean that you are the staff member who's really in it for let's see how much money we can get. And please, as well, you're not the staff member who's constantly sitting in the staff room going, do you know, these people and those managers, all they want to do is make profit. Nonsense. I'm going to say it straight, not true at all. But having an awareness of needing to conserve costs, having an awareness of making sure that you're not spending money we don't have, having an awareness that you need to bring the right change back with a receipt is just basics, really. Let's face it. And that's what we were really talking about here, business working. We're not saying that you're going to be the person to get the deal. And the final template for this particular presentation before we finish is so that, as I said, is a summary of what happens. We've put all of it together. We've done our scores. We've put our discussion in. And then based on that, you will get I think if we finish at that point, oh no, I can't. It hasn't got the overview model, but at that point, as you saw, it'll give you that one of those banding scores, and on that basis is what you are awarded your various band 1, 2, or 3, and the salary within the banding will also reflect. So you could have 3 points, which may make a difference to what salary you get by a fraction each time. We'll go through all this again later on when we start to do our first staff meetings, but I hope this has been useful to you, and I'm going to stop recording at this point. So thank you for listening.